get it. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Zach SchuZ Shoemaker. Appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in today. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Joining me to kick off today's show is a man that boasts a 15-0 record with 11 KOs. He's currently number 11 ranked WBA heavyweight. He's also the WBA Continental America's heavyweight champion, Deontae Pettigrew. Deontae, appreciate taking time to come on today, man.
Man, I appreciate you for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Well, first things first, I want to get to know about your nickname a little bit. You go by the nickname Tank. How did the nickname come to be?
I got two boxing nicknames. Actually.
Okay.
Tank is it was pure coincidence. As you say, my name is Deontae. Everybody calls me Tay. No one calls me Deontae. It's Tay. So
Right.
Gym, family, friends, whatever. We were in the gym one time and we had a guy. We inside joke about the guy. He can't really hear. So when I introduced myself, he's hey Tay. I'm Tay. He's like, Tank? I'm Tay. I'm like, Tank. And then my guy, Chris Alalshikh, my stablemate, professional as well, he's like, no, Tank sticks. Tank is what it is. And it was just Tank since then.
All right. And then your other nickname, obviously, Mayor. I want to take us to that a little bit. How'd that come to be?
Mayor came from just regular life. It was a moniker that was kind of given to me from the neighborhood, from the area. Okay. It was a kind of running joke thing. If you wanted something done or needed something done, Tay could get it done for you.
All right. And
one of my oldest friends like, hey, you like the mayor? And bam, it just stuck.
All right.
Mayor Tay and ran with it.
Well, Tay, I want to get into your most recent fight. You fought Richard Larity Harrison on April 19th, second round KO. That's where you won your WBA Continental America's heavyweight title. Take us to that performance that night. Is that exactly how you wanted to go down? Did it go according to plan, or walk us through that performance?
I mean, I got the win. I got the knockout, so I think it went according to plan. I went in expecting to win. I went in expecting, maybe to go a little deeper into it. I want to show some stuff a little bit. I'm actually kind of looking for a chance to display some of my arsenal, so to speak, display some skills. But like I said, got the win, got the knockout, so that was the result that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
As for the belt component, you obviously get the WBA Continental America's heavyweight title. To have that belt underneath your name now, what did that mean to you?
I think it's huge. I think it's the lot. I mean, it's the first rung on a ladder on the way up. Mm-hmm. I think it's big. Just being noticed by one of the major sanctioning bodies, the WBA. I mean, any avid boxing, person who knows the sport, they know it's like a lot of state titles and a lot of subsidiary titles and titles that you get that aren't really with sanctioning bodies and stuff like that. But to have and hold a legit sanctioning body title is a big deal.
You just talked about the fact that in your most recent fight, you would have liked to be able to display some more of yourself. And I think that's a key portion because for yourself, 15-0, 11 KOs. Obviously, I know people that are starting to get to know you better and better now. But let's say for those that don't know you yet, how would you wrap yourself up? Like, how would you describe yourself in maybe a couple of words? How would you define Tay Pettigrew?
Great question. How would I define me? That's a great question. I would say charismatic is one. Attention garnering, larger than life, and I'm having fun. I'm having fun with the sport. If I have to pick a few words, I like the charisma aspect of it. Like my second nickname is the handsome heavyweight. Is what I.
All right. Yep.
So it's fun for me. I'm enjoying myself. This is fun, man. This is great. I'm having a time every time I get in the ring, and I'm not trying to sound like cliche, but I'm having a time of my life every time I get in the ring. It's fun.
I don't know if that's the same story for everybody that gets in the ring. Some people do it just because it's part of the job, the only way they can make money, or so on and so forth. You say you have fun in that ring. Can you take us to that? Has that always been your story? Did that happen more recently, or we just talk about the joy of boxing?
So even, and I wish I had, some of my trainer or my stablemates here. Even in the ring and sparring, I'm having fun.
Okay.
I wouldn't say the same for the training part. I always complain that the training is way worse than the fight. The running and everything else is the hard part. When it gets time to fight, it's I won't lie, it's nervous at first, and then it gets immediately fun right after that. So when I say fun with the sport, I mean, I'm having fun with all of it. I even appreciate the grind. It keeps me in shape. I don't come from that kind of cliche background boxer where hard not life, fight to survive and
Sure.
gotta win to eat, and kind of grind that you kind of hear over and over with the sport, with the competitors. That's not the same for me.
Okay.
I'm doing just fine, but I thoroughly enjoy the boxing.
That might be shocking to some people because, like you said, it's so many people that have a traditional boxing history. It's, that's the way to survive. It's the way to go out there and fight. So, what was it about boxing when you first started getting into the sport? Why did you want to pursue it? What was so exciting about boxing for yourself?
Uh, Man, again, I don't. I'm not trying to purposely go against the old adages. It's just for me, it was, and I'm not trying to downplay it because I love it. I take it seriously. But
Hmm.
in the beginning, it was something to get me in shape.
Okay.
Um, I was my previous career. I was a tour bodyguard, and
Hmm.
I did a lot of tours with a lot of clients, and I can't really keep in shape really well doing that. I
Sure.
have ballooned up to a really big weight, really big belly, and stuff like that. So I came home, I took a break from the tours, and I was really not happy with my weight. So I said, "Hey, I'll get in some shape. And, I'll go to the local gym." And the
Mm.
local gym was a boxing gym, and I was like, "All right, I'll try it." And I was only around it for about 2 weeks, and I was like, "Hey, I want to try to fight that guy." It was one guy kicking everybody's butt in the gym. He was a heavyweight.
Hmm.
I got my butt kicked pretty good, and that was it. I was done trying to lose weight. I want to box now.
All right.
It kind of segued into just having a passion for it, man. I had no just a passion for it.
I know your pro career came in 2021. So, was that around the same time, or when did you really start getting into the boxing? When did that whole story happened that you just talked about?
Uh, 2018. So I did my last tour 27. I got into the gym early 2018, really early 2018. I want to say January or February 2018.
Okay.
Well, I haven't been fighting really really long.
Hmm.
Like I was actually amateur in 2021, but COVID had kind of shut everything down on the
Right.
UFC boxing amateur circuit. And there were some cities still doing professional shows. I'm like, I don't want to stay amateur and wait for USA Boxing to open it back up because they had shut down everything.
Right.
Boxing wasn't doing any shows. I'm like, hey, I'll give professional a try. You know what I'm saying? I went out there and I won, and then I won again, then I won again, then I won again. And then right around my sixth or seventh fight, I can't remember when, I won against somebody who I wasn't supposed to beat. And that's when it kind of turned into, hey, now,
Okay.
now we can do some stuff.
So if I would have told you back when you just decided to go to the gym just to get in shape that, you know what, in a few years you're going to be a guy that's ranked in the top 15 of the WBA, what would your reaction have been?
I would have believed you because I'm a winner, man. I
All
have
right.
to win all my I'm a win. Whatever I do, I try to win in it or try to be excel in it at least or do well in it or
Gotcha.
rise to the top. I'm cream. Cream
Hmm.
rises to the top.
I love that. So I want to get into your story a little bit more because as you talked about, you were doing security before you even got into boxing at that point in time. So what was it about that? How did you get into that industry?
I've been in that for a very long time. Started out local in the city security scene and kind of elevated to what they call artist security is when celebrities and high
Sure.
profile clients and stuff like that. And after that, you kind of just transitioned into a touring security. I got with a couple agencies and artist management groups and stuff like that. And I was busy with tour after tour after tour for a while, and just kind of segued into each other. And when you're on those tours, man, the time is really not your own. You can't really work out on your own. So you're on the artist time pretty much the whole time.
Hmm.
So it proved difficult to keep it. I mean, you have to eat on the road. You're eating fast food and stuff like that. So it just kind of happened like that.
When you talk about that, what would you say is the biggest thing you learned and helped you grow as a person during that time?
Patience for sure, man. You learn a lot of patience.
Mm.
Patience is a big one, and you learn discipline because, uh, and not just discipline. I think actually I'll take that back. I think an even bigger thing you learn is, um, it's kind of like being self sufficient because you're on an island, right? And
Hmm.
every sport, in most things, you have a team or you have some support or something like that. But
Right.
when you're out there on the road providing, artist security, you're on the island. It's just you. So I think you learn a lot of character traits about how to survive on the island or pre-planning, proper preparation, to make sure things go well. And I think that again, I think that kind of correlates into boxing because you're on your own. Yeah,
Right.
you have a team that you train with, but when the time comes, you're on an island in that ring. It's just you.
Mhm. As you were going through that time, what would you say has been the craziest story during that whole time of your security?
Probably some stuff I can't really talk about.
Okay.
But it gets some crazy stuff,
Mhm.
some stuff that we're live. So
Absolutely. Well, I want to go even back further. You grew up in Chicago, Illinois. When you were growing up out there, were there other sports you were playing, or was it just kind of going through life at that point in time?
oh no, believe it or not, I know it's kind of hard to believe because of my stature. I was a very, very high level swimmer.
Okay.
I went through all of high school, city and state finals swimming, um, state finals, placed second in my senior year of swimming. My stroke was the 100-meter breaststroke. Went to college, swam for the first year I was there. I mean, I was a very good swimmer.
Okay. When you talk about that component, what led you to end up giving up on swimming then?
I got fat.
All right.
I didn't get fat back then. I gained some weight, and once you gain weight, I mean, you have to be. It was really strict dieting and stuff like that, and
Right.
once I got slower than my competition, so I wasn't, I'm still a
All
good
right.
swimmer, just not collegiate level fast.
Okay. Another aspect about your career is that you also work real estate. Take us to that industry. What got you into that?
Real estate was kind of something I just fell into. I learned it on the fly. A couple of people around me were showing me how beneficial it is, and I realized that it's a great. And this is pre-boxing, so I realized it was a great retirement plan for what I was doing at the time, which was on the road security. I'm like, hey, this stuff is pretty taxing to your body and
Hmm.
even mentally taxing. Sometimes you're away from home, you're away from your family, and I'm like, hey, investing in real estate is a really good retirement plan, so to speak, and
Right.
it gives you a safety net and a nest egg, and it was just something I wanted to do. So I got into that leisurely, and it just turned into a business.
All right, so let's get back into your current time with boxing. When you talk about this avenue that you've gone down, you are a heavyweight. You're in the USA heavyweight division. I want to pick your mind on this a little bit because I think when we look at what's going on right now, there's a lot of guys that are in their 30s and whatnot. There's kind of this whole era that's obviously there, but then this younger generation, I feel like there's a lot less of the heavyweight talent up and coming. We have Jared Anderson, Torres Jr. is a solid guy, but when you look at that, do you feel like there is a shift when you talk about the American heavyweight scene for the younger generations?
As far as a young American heavyweight, I don't think there are any. The biggest
Mhm.
young heavyweight prospect is a guy I like him a lot, Moses Ayatuma.
Right.
Ayatuma, I don't want to butcher his last
Atoma,
name.
yeah.
Ayatoma, but he's obviously English.
Right.
As far as like young American heavyweights, I do notice the shift. I Most heavyweights now, up and coming, or even the ones that are on top or in contention or contenders and stuff, they're all overseas.
Right.
Almost everybody. I think the only American heavyweight we have in the mix right now, maybe Michael Hunter,
Yeah.
and maybe if he gets his mind back right, Jared Anderson. I
Mhm.
mean, Big Baby. Don't get me wrong, Big Baby Miller is a tough out for anybody, but I think he's
Mhm.
right on the outside of like that championship
Yeah.
level. But he's a tough out, man. I was in camp with him for a while. He's a tough out. He is a tough guy.
I was going to ask about that because, like you said, you did spar with him. I think it was earlier this year you were with his camp. And kind of take us through that a little bit. How did those sparring sessions go, and what was it like being around him?
Well, I think you misunderstood me. I was in camp with Big Baby Miller, not Big Baby Anderson.
Okay, Jarrell Miller. Gotcha.
Well,
Gotcha.
yes, sir. I know big babies are confusing. So, yeah, that was last year. I was in camp with Big Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller, and he
Hmm.
is as tough as they come. He's a tough out. But earlier this year, I did enjoy some sparring with Jared Anderson,
Right.
and I mean, he is as skilled as skill can be.
Hmm.
He has all the tools in the toolbox, so to speak. He is versatile. He's fast. He throws punches in bunches. I think that um, I think his hurdles are more mental than anything at this current stage, and
Okay.
that takes away nothing from him. But he when he gets it back together, he's going to be a tough out as well.
I've always given him props. Obviously, he went out there and fought Bacoli. It was obviously a tough out for him in that fight. But you're talking about a guy when you're in your early mid 20s. That's a big difference for obviously being that grown man power and body that you're going to get when you're in your 30s. But when you see him, do you feel like he's still a couple years out from reaching that peak where he's going to be able to actually be able to compete? Or do you think that's something he can do right now?
I think that he may be a bit out, yes. And
Yeah.
I say that with a grain of salt because he is good.
Yeah.
But the heavyweight, like you say, the grown man body for heavyweight really does me. And the only thing I dislike about the dialogue between two people who do know boxing is the people who listen may not know boxing well.
Right.
Someone will say, "Oh, he's 26." It's not the same, man. It's just
Yeah.
not the same. Take it from
Mhm.
someone who's been in the ring with up and coming high level amateurs who are 19, 20, 21, and guys who maybe be considered past their prime. But
Mhm.
Jesus Christ is different, man. It's different.
I think this was also been huge for yourself because obviously we talked about you didn't get going into professional boxing until you're in your 30s. Obviously, you're about 30 or 31 years old.
30, I was around 30.
Yeah. So when you talk about that component for yourself, how big of a beneficial is that for yourself, knowing that, hey, in one sense, you obviously didn't take a lot of damage in comparison to some people, but also you still have, 5, 6, 7, 8 more years of being in your good physical prime. Has that not boxing at a high level for a while been beneficial to yourself, would you say now?
Yeah, I think about it like this, and try to put it in layman's terms. I'm like a 2015 S class with
Okay.
like 1,300 miles on it, baby.
All right.
I'm like as opposed to being like a 2022 S class that was a fleet car,
Sure.
180, 200,000 miles on it, man. Some
Hmm.
of these guys get beat up in the amateurs. Some of
Yeah.
these guys get worn down in the. I've seen it. I you can. I'm really a student of the sport. I watch boxing every day, whether it's local, mid level, club level, or professional, whatever,
Hmm.
or even old school fights. You can see regression happen like that,
Yeah.
and it comes from and I hate. I love Lomachenko. I think he's a really, 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 really good fighter. Maybe right on the cusp of being all time, but I think amateur took a huge toll on him.
Agree.
I think Guillermo Rigondeaux, I think amateur took a huge toll on him. And some of these guys that stay amateur for a really long time get beat up in amateurs. Just it don't translate well. I'm like an older car with very low. I'm gonna run longer than all these cars.
Hmm. When you talk about the heavyweight division, I feel like that in ways a little bit different too, because obviously when you talk about, like I said, your best physical prime will probably come around 28 plus. Now, obviously, you have physical differences. You talk about Mike Tyson when he's younger. Itoma would probably be a world champion before he's obviously in his
Mhm.
30s or whatever. But for the most part, this is a guy that's meant for grown men sports there. Do you feel like it'd be best if you preserve yourself when you're in your younger ages, as opposed to obviously just going right after when you're in your early 20s as a heavyweight?
I'm gonna actually disagree with you there.
Okay.
I think what age did you say you hit your grown man prime?
Usually about 28, 29 ish.
That's about right. I want to say
Yeah.
right around 29, right around 30. I think you hit your grown man physical peak.
Right.
But I think each individual is different. I think we have to get rid of the old school ways of thinking where guys in the 70s and 80s may have not lasted long. We have to use current examples. You have to use guys like Tom Brady, LeBron James, guys who are competing at the highest level of the sport into
Right.
their 40s. You have to think about guys that just, I mean, and I can go on, I can name names. I can go. Usyk is at the top. I mean, Usyk is
Yep.
older. Before I get Caballero, who before he dispatched Gile Zhang. Gile Zhang was a legitimate boogeyman in the heavyweight division. I thought
Right.
he's up into his 40s. And a joke that I like to make about Luis Ortiz. I think
Mhm.
they have him listed at like 42. I think he's over 50. Legitimately, my coach remembers him from a USA boxing tournament in the 1990s where he was like an adult, and this is legitimate. And so I think that with the advances in modern medicine and the way that we take care
Mhm.
of ourselves and recovery, I think that ceiling that used to be 35, 36 is I think it can push to 40, 41,
Agree.
42 even. I think what is Derek Chisora? I don't know.
I think he just turned 40, will be 40 when he fights his last fight.
I think Derek Chisora is a tough out for any of these young guys coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. I mean, he's not a pushover by any means.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We also kind of going back to a question I asked a little bit ago, but that shift that we've seen now where a lot of the younger generations, we're not seeing them in America. In my personal opinion, I think it's a lot of guys are seeing the NBA, even NFL money and going down that path. But do you feel like there is a massive issue when it comes to, the future of American heavyweight boxing?
I think it stems from other countries. They take care of the amateur boxing monetarily to where unless you make the USA team, then America doesn't. We have guys that are really, really promising that I've seen throughout my time boxing that just can't sustain boxing because it doesn't pay them. We call it losing guys to the trucks because my gym is right next to a CDL facility. CDL is commercial driver's license. You drive the big trucks.
Okay.
We always say, "Oh man, we lost such and such to the trucks," because we look over and this guy's in CDL school now because he has to feed himself. He has to feed his family. I mean, we've lost a few. I mean, good guys that if I had the means, I would bankroll them.
Really?
I mean that good, but we quote unquote lose them to the trucks because they have to support themselves. And I also think that in America, you have to turn pro quicker and make quicker moves to get to the money.
Right.
Whereas in other countries, you can develop. I just found out that in some countries they pay you to stay amateur. It's
Yep.
crazy. And so I think that's where our disconnect is with developing American boxers. And outside of that, most high level trainers, they won't even spend a lot of time with the amateurs. They'll wait till you turn pro because you're not making anyone any money.
If you were in charge of this entire situation, specifically, let's say you're in charge if there was a role of being overseeing heavyweight for the youth, what's the exact changes you would make today if you could make and implement certain rules, infrastructure, payments, whatever it is? What's the rules you'd put in place?
I would absolutely provide some sort of monthly stipends to keep promising fighters fighting, but it would be based on maybe something like you being active enough in the sport, or like how the USA Boxing has current rankings. Maybe the top 25 guys would be in that stipend based category because guys will fight for it and you would strive for it. I would do that. I would also make it easier and I would actually make it easier to travel and for sparring and stuff like that. That's also big here. Traveling for sparring is really expensive.
Right.
If you don't have legitimate sparring in your gym or in your area, you don't really get it. And I'm actually a victim of that. And so I mean traveling for sparring camps, so to speak, those things are really expensive. So I would make it maybe some sort of I don't know system where traveling for sparring would be of gym by gym would get enough a stipend to go travel for sparring, so to speak.
We talked about yourself and the fact that you already had these other industries you're working in, so you already had some financials. That wasn't the exact same story for yourself of needing the money to be able to survive. If that were the shoes you were placed in, when you were making that transition to start working out, do you think if you didn't have the financial stability that you would have pursued boxing like you have?
Absolutely. That I won't be naive and say no.
Hmm.
Me being financially stable allows me to train how I need to train. It allows me to make up ground that starting late or what they say because I started late. It allows me to bring in sparring. It allows me to go out of town and join camps. It allows me to
Hmm.
maneuver in the sport how I need to maneuver in the sport. It allows me to do an abundance of things like that. It allows me to uh, maybe turn down a fight that may not be uh,
Hmm.
as the right time, I'll say, and take it. It allows me certain maneuverability, and I'm not naive to that fact.
I know we just got done talking, but I want to emphasize the point a little bit more because I think another aspect is that when we talk the financial component, I do think that is the biggest hindrance for a lot of these guys. When you talk about, like I said, the biggest thing I think a lot of boxers are also going down, basketball, football, because you talk about even at the college ranks now with NIL, guys are getting paid millions of dollars, at least $100,000, whatever it might be. That's a tough kind of thing to compete against. So if you look at that, do you think there's any other way that we could financially even compete with that in the boxing world for heavyweight type guys?
There's not a chance in hell unless we make amateur boxing a paid thing, which I don't see why it isn't. If you get to a
Yeah.
certain level, we're think about this. The NIL is fairly new.
Hmm.
So, well, we haven't even seen the worst of it yet. Let's say it's 7, 8, 9. I don't even think it's 10 years old. I think it's about 7 years old.
Yeah, 2020 was the first year it opened up.
Oh, so not even. So
Yeah.
5 and a
Wow.
half years old.
Right.
We haven't even seen the adverse effects of it just yet. So we're thinking now we have people, let's call them 12 years old now, that were maybe 7 years old when it happened. They're like, nah, I'd rather just go do this. maybe kids who we could have gotten into boxing, maybe some naturally gifted guys. We haven't even seen them. We're going to lose even more kids to that stuff now because now the NIL is being heavily publicized and stuff like that. So we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
You having a boxing eye and you know what heavyweight guys would be like. If you could pick anybody that would be the best possible heavyweight contender right now that's in the NBA or NFL, who do you think it would be?
The best possible heavyweight contender in the NBA or NFL. I like, so you got to think almost all the NBA players.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of them all fit there, yeah.
But they're all so tall. I mean, they're so tall. I would lean more towards the NFL. Let me think. I like a picture just dropped of Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he is jacked.
Yeah.
He is jacked to it. Or they got Ashton Genty, the rookie.
Yeah, the running back for the Raiders, yeah.
He is jacked. And I know muscles don't win fights. I mean, look at Tyson. But you got some freak of nature athletes. I mean, some of these guys are doing like, if I had to pick one, I'd go and I would lean towards a skilled position because they're faster with their feet, faster with their hands.
Good point.
And they're still 200 plus pounds. I will go maybe. I like that kid Ashton Genty, man. I have to give it to him because he's such a freak athlete. You know what? I don't know how tall Saquon is.
Ashton's only 5'7" though.
Oh, he's a short guy. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh no, he's a short guy. Oh,
yeah, no, he's real small. Yeah, he might be 5'8", but I think it was listed at 5'7", 3/4.
Oh no, I didn't know he was that short. Okay.
Yeah.
No wonder he's so jacked. He's a big.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't know how that would work out heavyweight, but
I don't know, man. Maybe like Alex Caruso, man. He's feisty He's feisty as they come. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I like to get him in the ring and see.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I want to get back into your career now because we talked about something, and you posted on the IG story last night or earlier yesterday that something exciting is brewing. So I have to ask, I'm sure that was in regards to boxing. What is that possibly brewing right now?
I'm anticipating a big time fight announcement is what I can say. Bigger than normal. I believe that very, very, very soon I am going to graduate from the club level. And, boxing people who they know that term. I'm going to graduate from the club level. And I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to make my TV debut soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Is this something we could see in the summertime, fall time? Like, what's the time zone you maybe think we could see you back?
Summertime.
All right. I like it, man.
Summertime.
And I also have to ask you, though, there was rumors earlier this year, and I don't know how legitimate it was circling around X for a little bit, but it was that you were in discussions to possibly fight Deontay Wilder early in the year. Obviously, we know his new opponent is going to be fighting. It's going to be Friday, 2 weeks from Friday. Was that actually anything in the works or what?
So that rumor was absolutely true. We actually we accepted the fight.
Really? All right.
We accepted it. We didn't when we got offered the fight, we accepted it. I mean, almost instantly. I think instantly. It wasn't even. I like to discuss things with my team, but it was like, yeah, we're taking that. Okay. I have all the respect in the world for Deontay Wilder. I don't think he's a chump by any means. I just think that he's beatable, and we could have beat him. And we accepted it instantly. And then when we got back to them, they said no. And then they picked this guy, Tyrell Herndon, he's horrible. All his fights are in Colombia, and he has the worst record ever. He's probably going to get knocked out. And I actually tried to fight Tyrell Herndon right when I was like 9-0, and he turned it down.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a screw up. But yeah, we accepted the fight with Wilder. They said no, and they found this guy Herndon.
I know the game plan. I know boxing is part of a business right there. And I think the obvious thing is they need to have him one of those statement knockout wins so he can possibly get himself, an AJ fight or something along those lines. Is that what you kind of see happening? That it's probably going to be easy, quick, highlight reel knockout?
Yeah, he's going to spark Herndon out for sure. But I think he has to beat Herndon, and then he has to do another one before he's up to the Joshua level again. Okay. His name, his record, his pedigree will carry him a little bit further than maybe where it should be.
Okay.
Excuse me, but yeah, Herndon is the recovery fight, the get back fight, so to speak, and then he'll have to fight maybe another live dog.
Yeah.
And then his name and his history alone will kind of propel him to like another maybe major league fight.
You said the fact that you think he's beatable, and right now I think when we look at Deontay Wilder's past couple of fights, it was not the same Deontay Wilder that we knew from 4 or 5 years ago. That dog in my opinion at least, it's kind of that dog, that destroy mentality almost was gone. I don't know if that was just because of how much he's gone through in his career, the Tyson Fury stuff that kind of weighed on him. I don't know if it was just mentality, the money, whatever it was, but it just seemed like he didn't have that same aggressive mindset. So do you feel like that's the portion when you looked and you said he's beatable now? Is that kind of what you were seeing too?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that he's never been, technically sound, a technically sound fighter. He's always been vicious. He made
Right.
a great statement one day. I love the quote he made. I love it. I live by it. That a fighter has to be perfect against him for 36 minutes. That
Hmm.
is so tough to do because he has an almighty equalizer that you go out any second. Take
Yep.
Luis Ortiz one. Luis Ortiz was beating him the whole fight, and then he just gets caught. Uh, when I say he's beatable, I mean, yeah, I agree. The fire's gone. The fire's out. The dog, he made a lot of money in the Fury trilogy.
Hmm.
Uh, when you get that level of comfort, it kind of does dim the fire unless you really do love the sport. And if
Yeah.
you remember, Wilder got into the sport for money. He's made that public. He's made that known. So I think that he's gotten his payday. I think the fire has died. He's not technically sound to begin with. If you keep an eye out for his heavy hands. Two, he has very limited movement in his legs. I think his legs are shot, and I just think that we would have outboxed him. I would have came in heavier. We would have had our way with him.
Obviously, as you said, he's going to probably need another fight before he even gets to AJ level, whatever it might be. And if you go and have that big summer fight you were talking about there, is that a possible thing we could ever see come to fruition between you two?
I would absolutely hope so. I would
Okay.
hope so. I would love to have Deontay Wilder as a notch on my belt. I would love it. His
Mm.
name alone is just it draws attention, because he's been a knockout artist for so long. If I could get it, I would jump on it again.
All
But I
right.
don't see them declining it once just to accept it. I don't see it happening.
Good point.
There, there's a there's there's easier options than me.
Okay. Well, I want to ask now to look at yourself because you talk about the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months, heading into 2027, and let's put it that way. Where do you see yourself at that point in time? Accomplishments, how many fights? Where do you see yourself in terms of standing, whether it be world champion status, contender, whatever it might be? Like, where do you see yourself in a year and a half?
Year and a half, I want to be right around 20 fights, 20
Okay.
or 20, but 20 to 22 ish, depending on how fast I can go, because I am still at the level where I can, I can roll off 3 or 4 fights in a year. I'm
Okay.
not at that stage where guys only fighting twice a year and stuff like that. I don't want to. I don't want to get there. I mean, even Canelo now in his world championship, he tries to fight 3 or 4 times a year. But I want to be, if I'm honest, in the next 12 to 18 months, I want to be right around 20, 20 and 0, 22 and 0. If I'm not at least one of the champions, I want to be the number one contender for more than one sanctioning body. I want to be right in the mix. I mean, I think if I make the right moves, if I handle my part and I keep winning like I am, and I get 20, 20 and 21, 22 and 0, I'd have to be either a champion or right there.
Hmm. If you were to talk about somebody, obviously we don't know exactly who you could be fighting that you're hinting at, but is there some people out there that you want to fight, even if it's not this upcoming one, but somebody, a local guy in Arizona or American guy or something along those lines? Like, if there's somebody that you would like to fight outside, maybe even Deontay Wilder?
Oh, I got a hit list as long as the Constitution, baby. I got a hit list.
All right.
I got a hit list. I got a hit list. I want to get them and scratch the names off and move. As I scratch and progress, I'll either add or subtract the name depending on where we are in the rankings and
Hmm.
positioning. But I got a hit list for sure.
Well, who's some of the guys on the hit list then?
I'll name a few. I want to fight Joe Joyce.
Okay.
I want to fight. I want to fight Hergovich.
All right.
I want to fight. Frazier was David.
Fraser Clark.
No, it was Frazier Clark, but he just got beat really bad. So now I want to fight David Adelaide.
Okay.
Uh, I would love to fight Michael Hunter.
Hmm.
He's on my hit list.
I was gonna say that one.
Cassius Chaney because
Mm.
he had a good scrap with Michael Hunter, and I know if it's a logical stepping stone if I beat Cassius, maybe puts me in a contention with Michael Hunter. A couple guys that I can see, those are kind of guys that maybe are a fight or two away. Some guys that I would like to fight right now. I would love to fight Brandon Moore. I would love to fight Richard Torres. Those guys I think are reachable because 15, 16 and 0, I think still is in the realm of Richard Torres. I know he just fought the
Giorgio Viscoli.
the Italian guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And the Italian guy put up a really good fight. It
Yeah.
kind of tested Torres. I think he came out better for it. I like Brandon Moore for me. I actually wanted to fight him a couple fights ago before he fought Torres. So those are some guys that I want to reach right here, right now. But they got to sign a contract.
Absolutely, man. Well, Tay, I've got one final question for you. It's the question I like wrapping up every single interview with, and it's talking about your legacy. Obviously, you got a lot of big plans. You're still going to be in boxing for some years now. But when you do put down the gloves one day, what is it that you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
I mean, I want to be the champ. I want to be a champion for sure, right? That's a given. That's kind of what anybody wants to aspire to be in boxing. I will hope so because
Right.
that's the ultimate goal. But as far as legacy, man, I want to be known for doing it right. I want to be known for doing it, not I don't want to say myself, but I want to be known for taking the grassroots approach. I mean, I started by myself, and if I get noticed and we get some big deals and some big contracts and we get some big promotional stuff like that, then no matter what, I still kind of grassrooted it myself. So I want that to be known, and that's big to me because it kind of let people know you can do it the non-traditional route. Some of these guys come out of the amateurs and they have to be signed by these big promoters and stuff like that, or some people who take my route where we're kind of the long way, so to speak. They don't really make it to championship status. So I want to leave that as my legacy. And outside the ring, I fully intend on giving back to boxing once I'm done in some capacity. I want to be a trainer. I want to be a manager. I want to be a promoter. I don't care. I want to be a referee at a local level. I want to officiate the Golden Gloves. I want to do. My life is now going to involve boxing at some level, in some degree, for sure.
I love that, man. Well, Tay, I appreciate you taking time to come on in, man. I cannot wait to see what guys got in store for you moving forward.
I appreciate you for having me, man. I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Of course. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
You too, man. Thank you.
I appreciate everybody for tuning into that interview. I'm going to have that clipped up, edited out, and then posted on my YouTube channel right after the show concludes. I appreciate all for tuning in. I'm going to go on a short break, and they'll get into the rest of the show right after that. See you guys shortly. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker. Welcome back to the show, everybody. So, we're going to kick off this next portion of the show with some fight announcements. A lot of fights got released in the past 24 hours. I'll be breaking those down. But before I go any further, if there are any comments or questions or topics in which you want me to address on today's show, make sure to leave them in the comment section, and I will do so and address them as soon as I'm done with each segment. So, let's get into some fight announcements that came out most recently. We have another Japanese card that just got announced. Kenshiro Taraji, a debatably top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, will defend his WBA, WBC flyweight world titles against Ricardo Sandoval on July 30th in Yokohama, Japan. Also on the card, Antonio Vargas will defend his WBA bantamweight world title against Diego Higa, and Eric Rosa will defend his WBA light flyweight world title against Takami. All this will be going down on July 30th in Yokohama, Japan. That's going to be an incredible card. All three should be great fights. 3 world championship fights on one night. That's going to be going down July 30th. Albert Badascala will be defending his interim WBA super featherweight title against Jaza Dickens on July 2nd in Istanbul, Turkey. That should be a good fight. And then another fight got announced for the undercard of Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois, the undisputed heavyweight clash going down July 19th at Wembley Stadium. It'll be Lawrence Okolie, Kevin Lerena in a heavyweight clash. This is an exciting fight. A lot of people were always anticipating this to be a fight to get made at the Bridgeweight division. Lawrence Okolie moved up to heavyweight. Kevin Lerena continues to bounce back and forth, but Lerena will be moving up to heavyweight to challenge Lawrence Okolie here now. Remember, Kevin Lerena challenged Daniel Dubois and pushed Daniel Dubois to his limits a couple years ago when they fought each other. This could be a very interesting test for Lawrence Okolie. If he makes it past this, he will be setting himself up for a massive heavyweight fight following that. So that's what we got in terms of fight announcements over the duration of the past 24 hours. Let's head into some boxing news now. David Benavidez has been in quite a little bit of an issue for the past couple of years trying to get the fights that he wants. For many years, the fight he was dying to have was the Canelo Alvarez fight, and for one reason or another, that fight never came to fruition. He's now moved his way up to 175, and he's now in a position where, yes, he is world champion. He was elevated to that status. He unfortunately has not yet been able to get the fight against either the winner of Bivol or Beterbiev. And obviously, both those situations make sense. I've talked about that. That's the trilogy needs to happen first. But it's left David Benavidez in quite an interesting predicament. Where does David Benavidez, the Mexican monster guy that I have in my top 10 pound-for-pound tiers, where does he go from here? And there was an interesting IG story that he posted the other day. It was a picture of both himself and Jaya Pataya, the man that also is a fellow top 15, in my opinion, pound-for-pound fighter at the cruiserweight division, who just broke a guy's jaw this past weekend, as we already discussed. That fight would be interesting. Now, I believe Jaya Pataya would have his way with David Benavidez quite easily in that fight, just because it's a massive weight jump to make it from 175 all the way up to cruiserweight. But could this fight possibly come to fruition? And I don't know about that yet. We'll see. But from my opinion on this is I just want to give props to David Benavidez. Would he actually sign the papers on that fight? That's to be determined. But him being willing to call out the likes of a Jaya Pataya, a Canelo Alvarez, a Dimitri Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, those type of guys, even if we're going to go to the extent where he wants to fight against Callum Smith or Anthony Yard, both of which are solid fighters, that is very intriguing to me as a fighter. He clearly wants to fight the best that's available for himself. Now, as I said, would David Benavidez versus Jaya Pataya make any sense right now? Probably not. But the only reason I'm going to be discussing this on today's show right now is because Jaya Pataya is in a similar situation where he is unable to get the fights that he wants. For many years now, he has been wanting to go and unify these belts. He wants to fight specifically with Zurdo, but at this point, I think he'd be more than willing to take a fight against Badou Jack or Noel McMillian until that fight has now also been rescheduled for another rematch to occur there. And now with Zurdo, obviously he's going to be fighting now in a couple of weeks, but now it's also rumors that he could be taking a Jake Paul fight after that. Who knows what's going to be true there, but if that fight does not come to fruition, you have to be imagining that Jaya Pataya will be looking for either something to happen. He wants a good fight against somebody that will push him. And he's not going to be getting that right now at the cruiserweight division. So that could be a fight that we see have happen, although I do think that David Benavidez will have the fight against either Dimitri Bivol or Artur Beterbiev locked up for himself in the near future, early 2026. So that's what I expect to have happen. One more time will tell, though. This gets good, folks. Turki Alalshikh made a couple of announcements yesterday. Started off with the Canelo Alvarez Terence Bud Crawford announcement. But he made a very intriguing tweet yesterday, and here's what it reads. From this point on, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other chasing him. We can no longer support these kind of fights with Riyadh Season in the ring. We want to support fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with heart and pride. Who could Turki Alalshikh possibly be talking about in this situation? Interesting you bring that up. Let's look at some of the most recent ring ones. Let's go back to Cinco de Mayo weekend. The main event on that Saturday, William Skull, Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, that would definitely be a Tom and Jerry running around kind of situation there. Let's go to the Friday. Yes, Devin Haney, you are part of the problem. Now, you could easily say, Jose Ramirez, yeah, you also were a massive part of the problem because you didn't want to do jack in that fight either. But for Devin Haney, you were running around that ring, just dancing around, having fun. For William Skull, you were exactly just running around the ring the entire time. Once again, could Canelo Alvarez have cut off the ring and done something a little bit better? Absolutely. But without a shadow of a doubt, William Skull was the definition of a track star running around in that ring that night. Now, there could be many others that you could include in this discussion here, but those are two that come to mind very quickly. And what Turki Alalshikh is saying, I'm done with this. And you know what I'll say to that? Thank you, Turki. This is what boxing needs. It's come to a point in time where we need to get rid of these running things going down right now. And let me clarify this. When I say running, I don't mean elite defensive ability where you're able to avoid punches, not get hit, and still hit the other opponent more than you're getting hit. That's not what I'm talking about. Where you're staying in the pocket and utilizing extremely elite, high-level defense, IQ, and so on and so forth. That's a much different scenario than what we're looking at when we see a William Skull or what Devin Haney did against Jose Ramirez. Entirely different situations. There is a difference between running around like Turki Alalshikh is talking about and standing in the pocket and exchanging but just not getting hit. There's a massive difference. And what Turki Alalshikh is saying right now is, listen, he does not have the power to say, you know what? For going forward, we're just going to eliminate it out of boxing. You could possibly penalize him at a point or take away, deduct a point or whatever the case may be. But that's not what Turki Alalshikh is necessarily talking about. Turki Alalshikh's the man funding his events, the ring and Riyadh season. What he is saying right now is, listen, I see y'all fighting out there. If you're going to go out there and run around and screw around, you're not going to go bring it all into the ring, then guess what? You're not going to get that big paycheck that I'm giving out right now. And if that's going to be an incentive to a lot of guys to start fighting the right way, then I'm not sure what would. That should be the way to incentivize a lot of guys. Because nobody's paying more money right now than Turki Alalshikh, and that is a guaranteed fact. And so if you are one of these guys out there that's running around, and now you recognize, like, listen, where the money's all coming from right now, if he's not wanting to be willing to pay up for me, then I should probably start changing something about my fighting style. Because listen, there's a two-part thing to this. I've said this time and time again. At least for Devin Haney, he has the accolades and the name to be able to continue to get himself big fights. For a guy like William Skull, you were just a world champion, and that should have been debatable because your world championship fight was pathetic, and I don't know if you even really won that fight. But for William Skull, you are a guy now that nobody in the world wants to see. Your branding was not high enough. Your image was not high enough. We're going forward. William Skull is not getting another big fight anytime soon with anybody. So you screwed the bag for yourself. But now we're talking on the higher level with Turki Alalshikh, and this is what boxing needs. I know boxing fans are sick and tired of this garbage that we keep seeing from guys. And there still are great fights, don't get it wrong. But we have seen enough garbage of these fights of guys running around that we know there needs to be a change. And that's a fact. You know, sometimes there might be a situation where we look at Shakur Stevenson. He's had a performance where he obviously got hurt and just has to go run around a little bit. He just need to go get the win. And at the end of the day, getting the win is all you need to do. That's the biggest job for boxers. But let me make this very clear. If your branded style is to go out there and purposely from the get-go of a game plan to go out there and run around the ring and that's how you want to win a fight, that type of situation cannot be tolerated in boxing whatsoever. That's a disgrace to the sport of boxing. And in fact, I don't even know if I should be calling that boxing because that's not boxing. I know a lot of people out there will say, hey, the point of boxing is to get hit less than you actually hit the guy. Correct. But it's not a track star. You're not going out to go be in a track meet and go run around or go run a couple miles or whatever the case may be. That's not boxing. You still have to actually engage and punch the guy. And what we're seeing in some of these situations is not that. We're seeing too much running around, as Turki Alalshikh put it. Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other is chasing him. And so to that, people might not like Turki Alalshikh. I don't know why, but I like Turki Alalshikh when he's brought to boxing. But I know that for most boxing fans, if not all boxing fans, even your PBC fanboys that love PBC, that's something that you must look at and say, you know what, I'm on board with what Turki's saying right there. because that's a fact. And you cannot deny that if you like boxing. So major props to Turki Alalshikh for putting that tweet out there, and hopefully he holds that to a legitimate standard and actually moves forward to help make boxing better as a whole. Also, staying on the topic of Turki Alalshikh, he has now revealed that the undercard of the Canelo Alvarez-Terence Bud Crawford will be made up of talent and not big fights. You could say that maybe the budget was entirely placed on the Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford purses, which both will be massive. But let's look at the undercard ideas. If I were to give you guys my dream scenario, and based upon what Turki Alalshikh is saying, that's not going to be like a February 22nd card. The main event is so massive that it's already solidified as a big event. The undercard is not needed to make the entire card great because you have an incredible main card with Canelo Alvarez, Terence Bud Crawford. So what Turki Alalshikh is talking about right now is that he wants to add talent. Most likely, we're looking at in the realm of prospects. We're looking at different guys that are going to be fighters that, you talk about different guys that are young, up and coming, rising stars in boxing, and that would be huge for the sport. But let me give you guys my dream main card. Canelo, Terence Bud Crawford's already solidified, obviously. Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes. That's the fight that we need to see have happen. That's a perfect situation, rising stars for a world championship that can be on the undercard. As well as, and I understand this might not be guaranteed, but based upon what Janabek keeps saying, that he wants to be on this card and he wants the Adames fight, if they can get Janabek versus Carlos Adames, obviously both of them are champions, it would be a unification fight. If that's the co-main event, that would be insane. That, in my opinion, would be the dream scenario. If we can get that fight to get made, we're talking big-time fight card right there. And then you fill up after those guys with, let's say 3 to maximum of 5 fights that are all involving young prospects. That could be a list of multiple guys, and this is where Turki Alalshikh actually talks about. Junto Nakatani, so I'm a little bit shocked to see him there. If he wants Junto Nakatani and you replace him, probably would be the co-main event as opposed to Adames Janabek. That's totally fine. But he also lists Christian and Billy, somebody that I do like a lot. Muhammad Akalel, Rieto Tsutsumi, Justin Valerio, Emiliano Alvarado, Jamar Talley, Abdullah Mason, as I already talked about, Nishant Dev. These are guys that Turki Alalshikh talked about. But there's many other guys I'll throw in there. How about Kermel Moten? That's a guy I like to see on the undercard. I think he has been criminally given the criminal under amount of attention that he should have been deserving at this point in time. I blasted PBC for what happened a couple weeks ago on the Caleb Plant and Charlo and all those guys card when he wasn't even on TV. And you had to go watch him on IG Live. That is unacceptable. If he can be on this Netflix card, that would be huge for his career, and he deserves that. You could look at other guys that are young, up-and-coming prospects. Scooter, he's a guy that I'd love to see on the fight card. He would be a great prospect. Even a guy, if you're going to throw an American heavyweight, Richard Torres Jr. would make a lot of sense. Maybe throw Jared Anderson back up on there. Emiliano will be a great one to throw in there. Vargas, my apology on that one. There's a lot of great prospects that you could throw on the undercard, but I do like what Turki Alalshikh's doing because, as I alluded to on yesterday's show, when this fight's on Netflix with Canelo Alvarez, Terence Bud Crawford, it's going to have a massive audience. And America right now is in a position where we are needing superstars. One of those guys that could have been the next superstar just blew the bag and crapped the bag just a couple days ago. And that's Keyshawn Davis. Y'all know who I'm talking about. We need some more stars in America because we are lacking them tremendously right now. And if this card would get more eyes and more attention on them, it would be huge for the sport of boxing. Justin, Anthony Joshua is likely to retire in 2026. Eddie Hearn has confirmed that it's likely Anthony Joshua will retire in late 2026. Joshua has 3 fights left in his career. He went on to add this, though. If Anthony Joshua looks great in his comeback fights, then he also stated that he would likely fight on well past 2026. So it really isn't the biggest news right there, kind of an obvious statement. But what I will take away from this situation, Anthony Joshua is in a position where he has 3 fights on his Riyadh season deal. He will finish that contract up, and at that point in time, depending on where he's at, he will probably move on from boxing or continue to grow. That's to be determined. Who knows what's going to happen? But as of right now, when you start putting your finger a little bit on the line, kind of dipping your toe in the water of retirement, that's usually a sign that the end is near, that your career is going to be moving on from very, very shortly, and that when you start to think about retirement as a boxer, your edge is gone and those type of things. So I'm not sure if he's going to get back to that top level ever again. But what I will say is this. I think you're as good as safe booking it that he's going to fight Tyson Fury at least one time, maybe even twice, and then possibly the FA Jogba fights I talked about last week on the segment when I talked about AJ back in Nigeria. That seems to be, for me, to be the biggest outline plan for Anthony Joshua and how he will wrap up his career. We'll see if that ends up unfolding there, but Anthony Joshua, maybe Deontay Wilder too. You could throw him in the mix, possibly. Who knows? But 3 fights, I think, is the most ideal, likely game plan for Anthony Joshua moving forward. With that being said, I don't see any comments in the comment section right now, so I will wrap up today's show. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for tuning in to today's show. Hope you guys have a remarkable rest of you guys' Wednesday. May God bless you guys all. I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, just real quickly, it will be a show that will feature 2 different guests as of right now. I will be going live at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The interviews will be at 12 and 1 p.m. I'll get into all different kinds of stuff on that show as well. But make sure to tune in. I'll announce who those guests are prior to the show starting tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. I'll see you guys. Make sure you guys have a great rest of you guys Wednesday. I will see you guys tomorrow. May God bless you guys all. And SchuZ is out. See you guys tomorrow.